This episode of Just Some Guardians is brought to you by Audible. If you saunter on over to audibletrial.com/justsomeguardians, you can sign up yourself for a lovely and free 30-day trial of Audible to fill your brain with all sorts of novels. One of the top picks this week is a brand new psychological thriller by author Carlo Cause My Tires Flat. I should have read ahead on this. The Ohio twin, mild-mannered Dan Squared, thought he was unique in the world, equal parts lovable and friendly, with just a hint of manly bread thrown into his librarian appeal. But then one day he wanders over to a park that happens to have a disc golf course, and he spots the most unpredictable thing: a human being who is the spitting image of himself. Curious about this doppelganger, Squared follows him and begins to obsess about his twin. Squared's journey takes him from Indiana to Ohio and sees him land in a spot in the middle of nowhere, South Carolina.
That's middle of nowhere.
Will he discover the true identity of his twin? Will they go disc golfing and BMXing? Will Squared's destiny be digested by his obsession? You'll have to find out yourself by signing up for your 30-day free trial over audibletrial.com/justsomeguardians and by listening for yourself. Excitement abounds as the book is read by none other than Elmer Fudd himself, as he was too tired from nonstop Red Dead Redemption 2 wagon robberies to say no to Audible's request to read this for free. And now, please enjoy this episode of Just Some Guardians.
Dun, dun, dun.
All right. Welcome to Just Some Guardians, episode 85. Tonight, we're talking about kind of my return back to Destiny 2, and I have a guest here that also will be helping me help all you. Clearnite. I see you have cheese balls there.
Oh, birds.
I don't know if you knew that you weren't muted. You may be upset.
There's a visual bit.
Yeah. No, I don't think that's all a visual. I think they can hear that quite well.
Welcome to ASMR.
Yeah. By the way, guys.
I got plenty of these, by the way.
Oh, gosh. Well, with that, I'm going to introduce my my guest for this evening. It is none other than the ever lovable Clearnite. Clearnite, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing really, really good. Actually, I'm doing much better this week than I was last week.
Well, you just have cheese balls.
What could be better? I mean, look, Utz. Cheese balls are amazing.
I always pronounce them as oots. Are they Utz?
I thought they're Utz, but I also say things like water, so I can't always be trusted.
That's true.
Go birds.
Yeah.
That's sports ball to you there, Gunbait.
Yes.
I know you live in Ohio and they don't really have any football teams.
That's true. I am out of that game completely, so stay the hell away from it. So
it's all good.
Well, welcome. I'm glad you can make it here tonight. Those tuning in, if you're living under a rock, and you
Get
just
out.
haven't,
it's really dark and damp under there.
It's rough, and the sand just gets everywhere. So, but Elmer could not be here tonight because he's gonna be hunting elk. He's living the Red Dead Redemption 2 dream.
I will admit, when you first said that he was hunting, and when he said he was going to be done hunting or something, I immediately thought that it was still more Red Dead Online.
He is now
this week's legendary.
He is now descending into a pit of just pure, like, he has blackout curtains on his windows. He's locked up his house.
Be very, very quiet.
He has all of his food stuffed into a satchel on his side, just ready to go. Mm-hmm. And No, but he is legitimately actually hunting. So
Cool.
I wish him the best. I hope he gets one.
Is safe, doesn't hurt anybody, doesn't hurt himself, and he catches something.
Yes. Also,
Or
Russell,
shoots, I guess. Or do you catch or do you shoot, whatever.
you don't catch deer or
Yeah.
elk. Yeah,
They're swift.
it's really hard to wrangle them with your hands. Just
Yeah.
saying. But,
And I will preface this that, I said this last time. It seems like whenever we record on Thursdays for Hoot Dawg, and it seems like I wasn't thinking I was gonna be jazzed up, but just the presence of you and just
Oh.
we haven't talked in a while. I feel like energized, and it could also be some cheese balls and some Coke. But either that way, I'm gonna have a good evening, as we hopefully all will.
Yeah. Russell also couldn't make it tonight. He's out with his wife tonight, so I hope they're out having fun. And so it's just kind of tonight. It's just an old fashioned Hoot Dawg takeover, a coup, if you will.
That's right.
So
yes. I was gonna look for a beret, but I could not find one. I really wanted to have a beret for the coup, because that's usually what you do, right? Doing a coup, you gotta wear the red beret.
yes.
So, but I don't have one. So.
Well, we'll have to work on that next time we do this. So.
Yeah.
If there will be a next time after this. So.
Oh, believe that. We're going to take it.
So, as I mentioned at the top of the show, I had mentioned that I'm still playing Red Dead Redemption, but I'm also... I hadn't even purchased Destiny 2, so I'll be purchasing it this weekend and actually making my return back into the game. And at least, I don't know if I'll be rushing into the raid, but I know I'll be trying to go for, whatever the game has to offer. What I imagine you yourself have also been playing a lot of Destiny 2 these past
actually, and it was interesting because prior to that, I had planned on playing some Red Dead Online, and for whatever reason, because I was really doing a lot of PC and I had not turned on my PS4 for a very long time, it had not downloaded pretty much a lot of updates. So it had to do PlayStation updates, it had to do Red Dead updates, and it had to do Red Dead Online. And as we all love, PSN is not the swiftest of connections, regardless of how good your connection is. I had planned that one night when it first launched to join you guys and play, and I was like, well, this isn't on. I'm in my living room. What am I going to do? I'm not going to feel like going to the other room to turn on my PC, or play on the PC. It's like, well, you know what? Xbox is there. It's it's not really doing much right now. And I know Gears had just come out, and I have the Xbox Pass, that Ultimate Pass. So I ended up playing Gears of War 5 while I was waiting for Red Dead to download. And I think I got through like 2 acts of Gears of War before I think even try to get finished on Red Dead. So I was like,
it's a hefty download. So
it is. So I kept, I have 2 different HDMI hookups for that. So I was like flipping back and forth between the 2. So like, all right, I'll go back to this. And I did it a few times, but I think it was on certain nights that you guys weren't playing. And then right before that, Borderlands, so I was in the Borderlands fun, which is actually really good. I know I don't think you guys got into it, but it'll be there. I mean, it's a great game. Like you played the first couple, I think, right? You said at one point.
Yeah, I played through Borderlands 2. I never went through the pre-sequel, and some people, I guess, in the gaming community don't even want to even recognize it as a Borderlands game.
I don't. Like, I tried playing it. I was really big into 1 and 2, and especially my brother was as well. And even he couldn't get into the prequels, and it's just the pre-sequels or whatever they called it. And just something about it. It was a different team and different time and stuff. But getting into this game, it definitely was fun. So I actually had to shout out to a couple guys I was playing with. I know Kingsley and Sin actually were playing it, as well as quite a few others. So we were joining in and playing it. But it's just, it's Borderlands. It's fun as hell. It's like just silly, stupid, guns galore, throwing things that just shouldn't be thrown and exploded and all that kind of stuff. So, and the fact that it actually was more than just Pandora, which is nice. That actually was a nice change. So I didn't finish it before Shadowkeep came out, but I did about 3 of the worlds, and I think there's a total of 4. So, but yeah, that was kind of fun. But yeah, since Shadowkeep got delayed a couple weeks, that was a good for a lot of people to kind of go into that. And it's funny because I didn't realize until right before, a week before Shadowkeep, that it was October 1. And I know October 1, that was actually last week, and last week is the week I had a tech conference for my company, so I was actually in Kansas City. So
I was watching Discord on that day, and you were wondering if Wi-Fi was going to be even a thing
like,
for
holy
you.
crap. So little things like having a laptop that has a gaming video card works. It's got 1060 in it, so it's or a 1050 Ti or something. Basically, it works really well. But I had to make sure that I had enough space on my SSD because it's limited SSD, and it has the SSD. But then that was also when Battle.net was being uninstalled, and I had to do the Sunday night before my trip. I did an uninstalled Battle.net, reinstalled my Steam version of that game, which was quick, but I knew that it wouldn't have been if I tried to do it on the hotel because hefty, as we know, Destiny was very large. So kind of to intro the whole thing, to your point of being away from Destiny for a while, the last time you've probably played consistently was maybe the Season of Opulence beginning a little bit, but even that was only for a few weeks, right?
Yeah.
So you didn't, I don't know if you even went through the whole Steam, you really didn't do the cross save mechanic or anything like that yet, did you?
I
That's
did.
one thing you might. Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to ask you that.
Yeah, I may not have been active in like the Hoot Dawg Discord recently, but I was reading and I was following. So, so when there was warnings or whatever saying, do this, you must do this, I was like, okay, all right, okay, fine. So,
finding anything that was like Eververse and trying to cash it in just so you can get the bright dust.
I didn't do any of that. So I made sure my cross save was set up. But yeah, as far as like, I have a lot of Eververse stuff that didn't get cashed out. So
which is fine. You'll get some things for it, and the Glimmer cap is higher now, so it's finally got to 250, 250,000, which I haven't hit the max yet, but yeah, it was definitely a lot of changes to that. So that Sunday before I went on my trip, I was doing all that. Like I logged in, I waited till last second to do some of my Eververse, dismantling so I can get as much bright dust as I probably could before, all that kind of stuff happened. And then while I was on, and Monday was the shutdown, right? So it was a 24-hour period where Destiny was completely offline. So I ended up, side note, not to go down a tangent, but I actually started playing a little bit of Planet Zoo beta on that one. That was actually kind of fun.
So, I need to get back into that game, and I need to do it with my chat working. So,
well, you were playing Planet Coaster, but Planet Zoo.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Same people though.
I actually own it. I have not even played it yet. So.
Yep. Yeah, well, it was only beta for like till the other day, so it'll be releasing soon. But beta was like for a week.
Well, there was one version of it that I downloaded. It must have been the beta though. So, and I was testing it a while ago. So, or something. So.
Yeah, but that was definitely fun. So that was the day. Like I had that on my with me as well, just in case for the Monday was my flight day. So, but funny enough, I ended up just watching some stuff on my phone because I wasn't feeling great. Like most of the week, I was, as you kind of hear, I'm coming off of like a head and chest cold. And the week prior, and one of the reasons why we actually haven't had a recording in a little while is, between Rob not feeling well, myself not feeling well for a few weeks, and just a few weird weeks of just weather and other sort of things. And we were going to record the week before Shadowkeep launched, and I had like 100-degree temperature the entire week every night, and I was getting home and just feeling like crap. So I was like, I just can't. I'd like to have a recording, but I just can't do it tonight. And even Dino was going to help me do a few things like with the Shower Throne that week, and I was like, I just can't. I just feel like crap. So, for the last 2 weeks, it's been kind of crappy until like Shadowkeep kind of came out. So I was actually in a hotel, lights off and stuff, listening to it, and it did hold up. Like it took a while, and I'm not going to go through all the launch day issues because it was history.
I was kind of watching on Twitter, and because for one thing, I didn't take off for that day or anything like that. So
yeah,
I was just watching from work, wishing everybody the best. But I was seeing the queues and I was like, you know what? I'm kind of happy that I didn't, not to disparage anybody that did take off on that day, but it was like every other release, I had usually taken the day off to enjoy it all, and
right.
And but that day I was definitely thankful that I didn't take it off. So
yeah, and that's a big one. I mean, if you were just on console, I don't even know if it was any better. I don't think it was, but PC, you had a lot of things going on, right? You had the migration from Battle.net, and you had to go and have Steam download, and then you had to have Steam unpack. So I had taken all that time on that Sunday night to download it on both my desktop and my laptop, so that when I traveled, I had it there, so I wouldn't have to do that at the hotel. But even when I loaded it up on Tuesday after the reset or whatever it was at 1 o'clock Eastern, it was like, okay, this will take 2 hours. I'm like, all right, well, I'm on break, so I'm gonna go back to class, and because we had a conference, so I was hoping by the time I got back from that and maybe lunch and all that, late lunch and stuff like that, I'd be able to play. And it wasn't until after dinner I was like, all right, well, I'm not gonna really screw with this because it took the servers down. It's like I was going out and had a nice dinner. I posted, food porn into the Discord, as they call it, and had a good steaks, yeah, had a steak dinner in St. Louis, or sorry, in Kansas City, and so I'm like, all right, by the time I get home from dinner, I'm gonna chill anyway. I'm not feeling great, so I'll use that excuse to leave and not go too late with people that were gonna be drinking at maybe a restaurant or whatever. I was like, oh, I'm gonna go home, paid my bill. I was paying for my team, so I did my duty. Had my corporate card and all. But I was like, all right, I'm gonna go home and to the hotel, and I just loaded it up, and it was cool because it was a dark room, it was creepy as hell, and it was an experience. It was great actually. So.
Nice.
I did limit myself just because I wasn't feeling well to most nights to be like 4 or 5 hours. So I really didn't finish the campaign until last Friday. So pretty much Tuesday through Friday night, I kind of went through it. But yeah, it was definitely really, really good. And I think we've talked about it, but I know some others know that my hunter in PC land has been a pack mule. So I've been
Yes.
kind of telling people, it's like, well, I'm not going to do anything with my hunter until Shadowkeep comes out because my plan is I'll delete her and then recreate a character doing the new light thing, the whole, Eyes Up Guardian thing. So every time I would load up that Guardian, I would always be like the Fires of the Red War, that mission. Well, before they actually launched Shadowkeep, they did say that if anybody had characters who had not finished the Red War saga or any of that campaign, and maybe even the War Mind stuff and stuff, if you're like in mid progress, it reset all that. It's like, okay, well, whatever. I was thinking about it. So when I first loaded up my hunter, I did this on day 2. So day 1, I played with my warlock main and did that, and that was a lot of fun. We can talk about. But day 2 was my like, well, let me see what happens if I load up my hunter, because it was at 750. Everything went up to 750. It was like they floored the levels, so everything starts at 750 now. All your inventory, all your vault, anything that you had in your vault automatically is upgraded to 750, which is a kind of a nice little perk. So
That's
if you think that
fantastic.
we're trailing behind. So I load her up, and it's like all of a sudden I'm seeing the like Eyes Up Guardian. I'm like the blinking effect. I'm like, oh, so because I hadn't done much at all with the Red War campaign on that character, I was experiencing new light, so I didn't have to recreate or delete anything. It was just loading up that character. I was curious and just saw it, and I was like, "Oh, cool!" So I did that whole first mission, and it's back to D1, a revised version of the Cosmodrome first mission. And you get to the point where you go through and you kill the Fallen, you kill the you can kill the tank if you want to, and you go out and you see all the different like new berries and stuff like that, people that are running around, and you do that first mission, and then you take off. And then the Archon comes out, and you're like, "Hey, see you," you leave, and that's it. That's all you have of Cosmodrome. So that, and then you're in the
Really?
Traveler at that point. So, so that's interesting. I thought that was a kind of a cool thing. But then once you got to the Traveler, I still haven't gone back to that. I still played a little bit longer, but you get quests for every world. So you get EDZ, you do all the EDZ stuff. Like you meet Devrim, you go back, you do all the lost sectors. So it basically walks you through each of the planets. So you start with the EDZ
Now,
and you go through that as a new player.
being that you've had experience with Destiny 2, and
Mhm.
I've listened to other podcasts where they went through the new light because they had never played before, or they had played, but they had just deleted their accounts or whatever, and just decided to restart over from scratch. Did you find that starting over with new light, was it, because what they said was that they had a hard time understanding because of how quests quests
Yeah.
and bounties are set up now. Did you find it hard to basically kind of go to the next step, or have some direction in that way, or is
If
that just
you
a blind new player thing?
I think it's definitely a blind new player. If you have any experience in Destiny, you kind of know generally what to do, and you do meet everybody. Like you can go and you talk to Zavala, you meet Akora, you do those things. And interestingly, because they give you those quests to go and meet Devrim and such, where in the first original Destiny, you did your Cosmodrome mission and you went back to the planet
Mm-hmm.
to get the hype drive and all that stuff, you kind of lose a little bit there, and you don't see the stranger at the end of that scene either. That's the other thing you miss, because in the
Oh,
original Destiny 1, there's a video that got posted of like side by side Destiny 1 versus Destiny 2, showing the exact sequence of how that all kind of worked out. And it's really interesting to watch. But you, at the very end, as you take off in the ship, and the Archon comes out of the pipe and kind of like moseys out, and you're about to, fight him, and then you turn tail and run. Normally, you take off into the stratosphere and you go into the clouds and you go back, and then you see the stranger walk up. Well, in this New Light, it cuts right to a D2 title screen, and then they go through, like, how, I forget if it was the speaker or if it wasn't Zavala. It was either the speaker or somebody else that does like those videos about we were light, and talks about the Traveler, and it does one of those like space map mission.
That's actually
your
ghost saying that, I believe.
Oh, was it the ghost? I'm trying to remember if it was, because it sounded a little bit less ghosty with the
Yeah.
The
so at the end, at that initial animation, I had an eye-opening experience when I realized who was talking, but it is Nolan North who was speaking. But at the end of it, you hear his voice get digitized.
Okay. Oh, okay.
And it is a subtle effect, but it was just like, oh shit, that's our ghost talking there. But yeah. It was pretty neat.
Because I was listening to Kotaku today, the split screen, and Maddie, who's one of the co-hosts on that, was talking about how confused she was. But I think it's because she joined in almost immediately with a party member, like a friend, and they were just chatting, and she wasn't listening because she's like, I don't know who I am. Like, who am I? What is it? Like, it actually explains a little bit of what the Guardian is. Now, I do think that somebody completely cold coming in, it probably is still a little confusing because you're not going through your intro missions. On even the Red War, it kind of introduces you to all your like mechanics. They don't really do that. There's not like, I guess in the initial mission, you do get a little bit of that. So you're learning to, grab a weapon. Funny enough, I actually had a weapon already because of Dim, and I had, allocated.
Oh, right.
So I actually had a weapon. I didn't have a secondary. Well, I had a secondary, but I couldn't change to it. But you still pick up like the weapon in the beginning, and then you go and you shoot your first dregs and all that kind of stuff, and you kill the fallen captain, and you go out into the fan, and you go out into the world and all that in there. So I think that kind of walks you through the tutorial how to play, but it still doesn't really explain what Guardian is. But then that cutscene, once you take off, I think does. So if you're just kind of getting dumped onto Earth, I can understand that, but I don't know. I think it does enough of a walkthrough, and the fact that they give you these quests that first get you to the EDZ to talk to Devram. You see the markers, the blue crown markers, and it gives you to him, and then he tells you to go things, and then you do all the lost sectors. And once you do all his stuff, then you get another blue crown to go to Titan, and then you go and see Sloan. And that's where I kind of left my hunter at that point. Like I went and did a few things on Titan, but then I was going back. I don't want to miss my grind for my warlock to see how far I can get. So probably like midway through the second night, I went back to my warlock and loaded him back up and started proceeding from where I was. But I don't think it was. I think it's a hard thing to come in with so much baggage of Destiny, meaning there's so much content that you come into with New Light. Because you remember, you're also getting still the Red War. You still have Osiris, and you have Warmind that you can tap into. And I think what was kind of smart is, especially Osiris, probably the same thing. It's like, oh yeah, let's go do the Osiris thing again. So I did that many times. But at least the one thing that I thought was interesting choice is they gave Amanda Holiday those legacy campaigns. So you got to trek yourself all the way over to the hangar. It says, go and see how Amanda, she wants to talk to you about some, historical stuff. And you go to her, and that's where you could actually start the Red War campaign. You could start, like, there's like little icons of everything that you own, and you could just launch into that at that point. Now, I didn't do that because I wanted to still kind of do the New Light thing. But I imagine if you pick the the Red War campaign, it would probably launch into that at that point. And then you probably would start from the fires and all that kind of stuff, like the intro video and the Cabal attacking and all that kind of stuff. That's what I'm assuming they would do. So I think that would give you an intro player a little bit better of a footing, because you're kind of given an open universe when you come in with New Light. And even though you can follow those quests to go to EDZ and all that stuff, it doesn't stop you from going to Mars, Mercury, Forgotten, the Forgotten's area, the Tangled Shore, and even the Dreaming City and stuff. You could still go to those areas, even with a free version. So it's interesting. So I could see somebody getting confused by it, to be honest with you. It would have been probably better, but I know why they did it, because they wanted everybody to be able to jump in and play with their friends immediately. Everybody had 750. There's no more character level. Everybody's level 50, so nobody's at any level, if you think about it. That's where
and levels are done away with now, correct?
Yeah, there's no levels. Actually, it's the season pass. Like, I think officially they still call you level 50, but that's meaningless because it's the season pass now, and the rank and the level in there, which is interesting. So
okay. It's kind of like what they did after Taken King or whatever.
Yeah, it's kind of like a reboot. Yeah, it's
Now,
definitely it's that level of reboot in terms of the mechanics of life.
as far as like the size of the campaign is this is not a Forsaken size campaign?
No, it definitely is not. I think they've always said that it's kind of like a Rise of Iron. So if you remember the Rise of Iron campaign, I would say it's probably meatier than that because I always felt a little bit shorted by the Rise of Iron. I was hyped for Rise of Iron. It was actually a really interesting campaign, but it was only maybe like 5 missions, maybe something like that. And I think there's more meat to the moon stuff, especially. There's more stories and there's a lot more things that you're doing, and you immediately start to kind of grind a bit as well. So I think it's definitely not as light as Rise of Iron, but it's not a Taken King size, and it's definitely not a Forsaken size. Forsaken was, 2 new areas. Here you're given the moon, and even though it's much bigger, it's much more in depth, and there's a lot more secrets and new things. It's also very trippy. Like you have played, the moon in Destiny 1. You come in from an angle when you first land on the moon, for any spoilers, but like you come into First Light. If you remember the map, the First Light, the Crucible map,
Oh, really?
it's that is the world that they integrate into the PvE. It's exactly that map. It's got those same little domes. And you come into a battle sequence against a hive who have risen up, and you get a voiceover from Zavala and stuff. So I think if somebody had jumped in as a new player and joined into that, they probably get a little more of a starter to that as well. So, but it is really neat because you're coming in from that angle, and they connected it in from a different angle. So if you remember where you used to always land on the moon in the first spot where all those like the Amway or the train tracks and stuff are, the hollow whatever they call those, the tram tracks, kind of like the Disney World train tracks that are kind of like broken up. I forget what they call that even. It's like train.
Was that actually a train track that ran across that?
I always thought it was. Yeah,
I
I
always
thought it
saw it
was.
like as a particle accelerator or something.
I always thought it was something that was at some point a transit system. Maybe I'm wrong. I thought it was always a
Maybe it
transit.
is. It's broken at the end, so
Yeah, you
it's
can't go
nothing
anywhere.
now.
Yeah, but instead of coming from there, you come from the other side of it, and you can get to where you start off on the moon from originally. And actually, there's a regional chest there. Funny enough, that you can where you originally would start on the moon from back in the day. If you go back to a lot of these little areas, sometimes they'll have little secrets in those spots too. So that's pretty neat. It's definitely so length of campaign though is still not. It's probably maybe 16 hours. Maybe it's not a 3 hour
That's a
campaign, I don't
decent
think.
amount of time. I
Yeah.
mean, it's,
If you really grind it, you could probably finish it in a night, which I know people have probably done.
yeah.
Me, like I said, playing casually, 3 to 4 hours a night. By Friday, I got the main campaign done, and then you do post campaign stuff, which is pretty cool. So,
Um, I mean, I know from glimpses of what I've seen as far as like from other Twitch streams and stuff like that though, but um, and usually I jump out because it's like I want to absorb it all when I go back to the moon because like a lot
yep,
of others have said, the moon is like one of my favorite spots in Destiny.
yep, yep.
And just spending hours at a time just sniping dregs
Mm-hmm.
off at a distance or whatever. I mean, that was
Mm-hmm.
what I would declare as an awesome pastime for me.
Yeah.
But
Mm-hmm.
as far as like nostalgia though, I mean, does it still have that familiar feel? Or I mean,
It is very familiar. Um, there's enough new that it also feels new, but when you first go on there, other than the fact that you're coming from a different angle and you're
mhm,
coming from like the first light map, which never was part of a PvE experience, it was always just the Crucible map
right.
that attaches it. But you go right into an area where you see the Shadowkeep itself. So you're kind of thrown in to an area that's new or newly revised, like a lot more crevices and things like that. And then the Shadowkeep is where you first kind of encounter the moon. Later, when you eventually go through the initial plot of the first story, you get Eris comes and gives you exposition and things like that. When you restart with her again, you're in a spot off of those train track things or whatever off to the side. So remember when if you would land on the moon and you'd hook a right and you keep going straight, you would have to then bend around to the left. Otherwise, you'd hit an abyss, essentially, nothing there. And like the tracks would just go off nothing and
Hmm.
whatever it was. That new area is connected to that. That's where you land now. So there is actually something there and kind of come in that way. So there's a few different landing spots on the moon. There's like 2 or 3 landing spots, I think maybe two. That's the primary one where Eris hangs out. Kind of like the one area where the NPCs always like Petra when you first land in the Dreaming City.
That's her social gathering site or whatever.
That's your social gathering spot. You can't shoot anything. You're kind of like, you can carry your gun, but you can't shoot. You're starting off there, and that's where she's at. And then you can go in 2 different directions, both of which connect into areas that will be very familiar to you. You go into the light, the Anchor's light, and then also the other area where you start seeing a lot of, but you're coming from a different angle. So it's the same map revised with a lot more cracks and crevices. There's a lot of times where I would just do the normal routine that I would think of, and I would like, oh crap, there's a crevice here, and then you like end up dying because it's like, it's a pretty big crevice, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, and the ghost can make it, but then you just don't quite make it. The side, and so I think it definitely has the same nostalgia. It hits all those notes. I think it hits. The music is excellent. It's new, so there's no like, I don't think there's any reused music that I can tell. Although I kind of have my music a little bit lower. Probably I should have it crank up. I think we talked about this past a lot of times. After time, we kind of turn off the sound or keep the sound on and turn off the music. But it does have a really good soundtrack, so I would put your music back up again because it is.
When I go through my initial playthrough, I will have the music going. So
yeah,
because when I went through Forsaken and a lot of those campaigns and stuff like that, we were well into the
I remember
the grind.
That's why I mentioned it.
and I turned on the music. I was like, wow, there's some really good music here. And you're like, what?
Yep.
Yeah. It's like you're just now noticing. It's like, yeah, I just now noticed. It's pretty good stuff.
Yep.
And those Bungie guys.
And there's definitely more fidelity in the sound, I think, on the Moon too. There was always sound effect, but it's a different level of fidelity, I think, that's improved. And there's a lot more atmospheric groans and moans and spookiness, because without giving too much away of the plot, you've seen those ghosts like floating, like
I've seen stuff
ghosts, but like floating ghosts and stuff.
Apparitions, if you will.
Apparitions, yes. Probably the better term for it. They're the ones that give off like your patrol and your kill missions and things like that, and you don't realize it at first until you start driving or walking around, and you hear like these moans of somebody, like a tortured soul. It's like, oh my god, blah, blah, blah. And then you go there, it's like, oh, that's a kill mission, okay, and you get it from that sort of apparition basically. Or the scan missions, which you never would ever do after a point, those are all Tolan. So you talk to Tolan basically. You have a little globe, and it doesn't take you very far usually, so you can do those scan missions without having to like trek over the entire map basically. But I didn't realize those sounds were what they were. I just thought they were just ambiance. So until later, I started noticing, oh, that's a patrol thing there, or that's a kill mission there, or that's a whatever. But it does get really creepy really quick. It's definitely spooky. So it's a good month for it actually.
Nice. Well, I'm excited. As we've some of our usual suspects are in chat. We have Reeb and Evil J. We as they know, we've been doing a lot of Red Dead recently, but I am so excited to actually give my voice a break because my throat feels like it's gonna fall out. Because if I have to go to a low grumbly tone again for a little while, my throat's gonna explode. So I'm looking forward to a little bit of a break to come back to Destiny, and I'm just excited to go back to the Moon. And you haven't jumped into the raid at all, have you?
No, I've actually kept mostly blind. Although Wenzel, one of our Hoot Dawg clan member, was a part of the 24-hour club, so she joined over with Onyx actually to do that day one raid, and they had like 3 raid teams running that day. Took 16 hours to complete the raid. I was like, for that group.
That's still amazing. Yeah. Jeez.
Yeah. I think the official team Ascend who won, they assembled last year at Forsaken because Bungie's TWAB came out today. So they talked a little bit about Ascend and talked a little bit about their backstory. They did it in about 6 hours for their group. And that's a team who's very familiar with each other. Wenzel jumped in with a team who really just newly formed, so they didn't have a lot of, even though they're all part of Onyx, not everybody had raided together before. So it's not like, how it is when you have a core raid team that at least 4 or 5 people, you get comfortable, like, okay, I've got this part, I'm going to do this. Dina's always punching the Scion, in the bubble, or you don't have to even think about it, and Leviathan, right? You get into these sort of roles that you're used to. When you don't have that, I think it takes a little bit longer. But they actually came up with a strat that now we recorded earlier, and Wenzel was our guest for this week, and can do the raid in an hour. So it's like Last Wish. It becomes something that once you get a good strat down, you can actually complete that raid within an hour or two once you know it. And that was even doing some side things that you need to do for some exotic quest stuff. So I'm sure the average stat came out today too. Most people who complete it, there's been 10,000 fire teams who have completed the raid to this point since Saturday. So that's 60,000 people. So 10,000 raid teams. And they do it in about 3 hours is the average time. So right now, at least the running
right
rate.
now, it's because of all the education going on. I mean,
right. Yeah. So, and apparently this was a little tidbit that Wenzel shared, but there's a lot of strategies right now that are not optimized that you see in LFG groups that Onyx and a couple others are starting to adopt these new techniques that are a lot more efficient now. So it's the same kind of things, like you could try and do a raid one way, but then you learn a new technique and it saves all kinds of time and makes more sense and all that kind of stuff. So, that's a good thing. But yeah, it's a good time for you to come back too, because not only there's Shadowkeep, but there's also, I think did you do a Scourge of the Past raid? That was the one with the Sparrow racing in the middle with the fireball.
Yes, I did do that.
So you did that, and that's a pretty good raid. I still have to wait for Anarchy to drop for that. That's a good one. But Chronosaurs is actually a pretty good raid as well.
And I never jumped
tough.
into that one at all. But
yeah, that was one that was released last season during Crown of Opulence. I have a couple clears for that now. I think two clears, I believe. So that one's still challenging for the teams that haven't completed them yet. But once you get to a veteran team, you can actually get through that fairly well too. So you have a little bit to catch up with, which is fine. But I think for you especially, I know if you're like me, a lot of my characters I left behind a little bit. So my Warlock was really my main, and I had my Titan. Again, my Hunter was kind of not up to snuff, but I had so much in the vault that everything that goes up to 750 becomes viable. But then as soon as you start playing this campaign, the soft cap goes up to 900, so you can get to 900 within pretty much a couple days, fairly easily. But then the soft cap hits at that point, and you really have to start doing like nightfalls and other pinnacle activities, as they call it, to kind of get to like that 950 is the max. And then the artifact, I don't know if you know much about the artifact, but it's something that is a element that is part of the new like modding system and new perk system that you level up as part of the season pass as well. So as you advance the artifact, it's also adding to your light. So my normal light right now is 911, I think, but with +5 from the artifact. So I'm actually 916 light. So the maximum power light is 950, and that will be the case for the entire season. The artifact gets reset every season. So the artifact goes back to something new. This is how they can sort of play with different mods and different things without having to like undo and rebalance everything over time. So it's actually a concept.
I'm coming at you like this as a complete noob, because I am at this point. I'm a filthy casual. Yep. Does that artifact figure into your power level?
Yeah, it'll get you to 916 max. So officially 950 is your actual power level max, +10 for your artifact. And so basically, let's say you complete the whole season, right? And you get to 950 max light, and then you have your artifact gets maxed out and you're at 960. The start of next season, you'll be at 950 again.
Okay.
Because the artifact will go back to 0, it'll blank out, and it'll be new perks and new things in that artifact. And it's another leveling device. So it's yet another thing to sort of chase with experience. So you're not just getting like those special like drops that are like aesthetic looks from the Eververse stuff. You're also upgrading your season pass for one. So you're doing like the Fortnite or Dauntless and all those sort of things where as you gain experience, you're getting level 1, level 2, level 3, and there's little perks or things that unlock like weaponry and stuff. If you remember back to the book of achievements in Destiny 1, where you'd have like the book and you turn the pages and you'd have different equipment that you get to level 5 and you get this piece of armor, and you get to level 6 you get this piece of armor, or it's a similar concept but in the battle pass format. So as you go through it, there's a free pass version, and then there's a premium version. So if you own Shadowkeep, you automatically are part of the premium pass. This is their season pass thing. So if you get the overall yearly pass, it's $10 effectively per season. When you buy Shadowkeep, you have the season pass. So you'll have the season pass and Shadowkeep if you just buy Shadowkeep itself. But then next season, if you want to have like the premium track, you pay $10 and you get access to the premium track and things like that, and some of the season activities. So that's their monetization method for, especially for the free to play sort of model. So Shadowkeep's the DLC, and then you can pay extra for a season pass as the different seasons progress, or not. If you don't like what a season may turn out to be, like Season of the Drifter, a lot of people didn't care, right? You could opt out of that. Now they kind of promised that they won't have that kind of a season again, because they admittedly have said that was the best of results. But generally speaking, you don't have to get the pass every season, and still you can play a lot of most of the content, most of the new updates and things like that. So but the art, and I digress, but like the artifact is yet another thing. So you have the season pass to add your experience to, that automatically drops, like, you get 50,000 glimmer when you get to level 3, or you get like 20 shards, or you get, the hand cannon drops, an exotic hand cannon drops at level 1 if you're a premium, or at level 20 free, you get the same hand cannon. So Ariana's Vow. So it's like you can do the same things, and even if you go free, you pretty much get everything on the same track. It's just how fast you get it based on just playing the game versus buying the season pass, essentially. So you're upgrading that, and then the artifact has the same kind of thing. As there's different perks that are on the artifact. Like there's these challengers and heroic creatures that have like barriers and force fields. Well, some of the perks you can respec the artifact, but there's like, you can add barrier defense resistance overriding to your hand cannons, and you can pick each of these things and they get added to, you can add them as another mod to your weaponry, basically. Or there's things called finishers, which is a special kind of melee hit. Typically you can actually get a finisher that gives everybody heavy ammo, but it takes a 30-year superpower away when you do kill something with finisher. So it's like there's different perks that you can play with, that you can customize and respec yourself if you want to. It costs glimmer to respec, and you can clear the whole thing out again. And with the number of experience, you get points. So it's kind of like it's like an RPG MMO system. Like as you advance the artifact, you get points that you can allocate to almost like a tree, but it's a grid, but it's the same kind of view. You can say, I want one of this, one of this, one of this. So it's like in Red Dead, you advance certain traits and trees, right, for skills. Same concept. It's just you're unlocking those perks through experience. So, but it also does add powers. So like right now, my artifact is giving me 5 artificial power light as well. And I think you can get up to max of 10. So
and before it scrolls off my screen here, it's Wenzel in chat. Congratulations on the raid once again. But says Pinnacle gear goes up to 960, artifact goes on forever. I'm already up to plus 11 power on my artifact. So
oh wow, okay.
So who knows? But
yeah.
I don't know. She later on goes to say it just becomes insane at higher levels to get power level points, that it becomes completely improbable, somewhere around plus 22 supposedly. Interesting. Okay. Well, that's a lot for me to digest without even being in the game just yet. But
but what the artifact kind of is there to solve, how like when you, like for your case, you come into a season, and if you missed 1 or 2 seasons, you feel like you're so far behind.
Yes.
They eventually added those bounties that kind of get you up to level, or up to power level within a few, within an hour. You do enough strikes and do other things that get you up to like whatever, 600, 650, etc. 700. This is to solve for that. So everybody starts every season at the same level, and the artifact is what gets you to the higher levels within that season. And then at the end of the season, it resets again. And then the next season, you kind of progress. It also allows them to kind of play with different mods that may not be well balanced, but hey, if they mess up on it and it's something that's like way OP or not even good, either scale, they can just say, all right, well, it won't come back in the next artifact. They'll do a different artifact next season. So it's to allow people to just jump in and play with their friends without having to go through all the hoops of like playing Osiris to get you leveled up, or to play with Moremind, or so that's at least their stated goal behind it.
I like it.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good approach.
So,
and it's another thing to shoot for. It's more loot, more equipment, more. I mean, there's another one. You get a certain package. It gives you like 100 of all the planetary. Like, so as you advance, what you're going for. So like, okay, I get one more level and I'll get more glimmer. get a package of glimmer, or I'll get a package of shards, or I'll get this armor, or I'll get this leg piece or a glove or whatever. So, and then as you go through, and there's exotic shard that or exotic engram that you can get. You don't know what it is, but it'll be an engram at like whatever the light is. So it is something to shoot for, similar to like Fortnite, right? Like Fortnite or Dauntless, whereas you're shooting for hire, those are all aesthetic. Here, there are some things that are aesthetic, but there's also some things that are actually practical that you just earn through experience, basically.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I for one, I'm excited to get in there this weekend. So hopefully I can catch you sometime this weekend. And I'm actually excited to get back with the clan and hear Dino's booming voice once again. And
we were playing the last couple nights. I did a lot of the regular campaign solo, which is kind of interesting to see some of the things, because some of the stuff is revisiting some of your old nightmares in memory, and some of the things that you do go after.
You mean there's clowns in the game?
Yeah, very scary clowns. Got red balloons and everything.
Oh God!
If I could do the, yes, I'd do it. But
try for the internet for the for the children.
It's a big forehead.
Yeah.
So
it was a visual bit.
Yeah, visual.
So
yeah, it's definitely good. I think it's a great campaign. It's not Forsaken level, and the end game is, I think Wenzel had a good point on our show. Little spoiler for our show.
Oh, please spoil away.
One of the things that you said was it's more like MMO like, where with Forsaken it dropped everything at once. Like everything was dropping, and you had a couple things like the dungeon was found, but for the most part you knew what you got, and that's what you were grinding for. This is more of a trickled approach. Like they're giving you this amount of content and the nightmare hunts, and then the Vex Offensive started on Saturday, which is a new event that you have to be part of the season pass, which is actually fun. It's a limited time event. It'll go away after the season, so it's like an activity, like think of EP or Reckoning or Menagerie, but something that doesn't stick around after the season is over. And it's actually very loot plentiful too. You get a lot of drops, so it's those kind of things which really are pretty cool as part of the end game. But then new exotic quest is going to drop. There's already a couple exotic hidden quests right now that are there, but there's another, like there's a new bow coming, there's a heavy machine gun that's coming. So the TWAB and other sort of materials tell you the milestone map basically, and we posted in our sticky threads today. I posted a infographic for it, but they're giving you, like every week, next week, as we know, is Iron Banner, but it also is legendary nightmare hunts, as well as what was heroic was this week. So they're like adding additional difficulties, different activities. They're bringing back raid challenges in a few weeks. So there's the first raid challenge, which implies there's more than one raid challenge. So subsequently, and they actually did formally announce the new dungeon. There is a new dungeon that's coming towards the end of the month. So it's not like just Shattered Throne where people just, hey, crap, what is this thing? You know that there's a dungeon somewhere. You don't know what it is. They haven't really revealed too much other than the fact that it's going to be on the moon from data miners and stuff. But it's coming, and it's on, I think it's the 29th, if I recall. But it's basically later, so they have a roadmap. So there's things to look forward to too.
There's a lot of stuff coming out on the 29th, isn't there? Or if I'm correct, I didn't actually look at the roadmap, but there was a whole bunch of stuff. That's not when Festival of Lost starts, is it?
No, I think it's a week before.
Okay.
I think if I pull up in a moment or two, I'll find it. But basically, it's let's see. Festival of Lost is another thing that's coming. So actually, that is the Festival of Lost. 29th through the 19th is Festival of Lost. It also launches the dungeon, and there's a new PvP mode called Momentum Control that also launches on the 29th, and an exotic quest, the Xenophage, which is the large machine gun with explosive rounds, basically. So those are several things on the 29th. But like this week, there was the Hero Nightmares, and then next week is Legendary Nightmare Hunts, and then Iron Banner. So it's difficulty level. It's adding different difficulty levels to the Nightmare Hunts, which is an activity. So, or several activities, similar to like adventures. So
cool. Yeah. Before we move on, and I also wanted to mention too, as far as like for PvP, have you gotten into any of that at all? Because how much of a PvP player I am, and
I know you're just OG with that stuff. No, that's one thing. Excuse me. I did not jump into Crucible just yet, just because I've been having enough enjoyment with the PvE and all that kind of stuff. I will go into it.
To punish yourself.
It's interesting to hear other people's opinions of the PvP. So there's a lot of folks who say it's much easier right now to gain level, and partly because of what they did with comp is that they made it so that you can gain levels fairly quickly, but then it's harder to lose traction. Like there's a floor after so many different. You can't keep dropping down, 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 down like in the levels. So like it makes it a little bit easier to kind of attain things. Skill set, I don't know if there's any difference, but you would think there's a lot of Newberry there. That's the term, by the way, I've seen kind of floating the. So instead of blueberries, who you play with, randoms, newberries are the new light, new blueberries, but they call them newberries basically. So I kind of like that
I
term
like
trying
it
to
too.
stick. So rather than like kindergartens or anything like that kind of have a different implication. So, but I would think there's enough like fresh meat out there to play, but it's kind of hard. That's hard to say. I personally haven't jumped in. I know Rob, who's one of our PvP guys, that kind of just always does the solo. Our founder and lead. He tends to do a lot of solo, comp and things like that. And he said he was just getting crushed. Now, flip side of that, Wenzel, who's running with a high end pack and already at like 5,400 looking for legend, So it's like I think there's a little bit of disparity in terms of maybe the levels that are there, but I guess it depends on who you get skill based matched with. Anything else?
Any
But the
new?
fact that it's 3v3 is nice. They did revert back to 3v3 for comp
That is
and
nice.
and only survival. So there's no more countdown. There's no more control in comp. It's just survival in comp right now.
Well, countdown just basically turned into elimination.
Yeah,
Anyways.
pretty much. Yep, and they do have the elimination in the Crucible to some level of trials at some point. So,
any new maps at all, or?
Yeah, two revisited maps. So Widow's Court is back.
Nice.
And Twilight Gap is also back.
Oh, fantastic! The party room.
So those are two really good maps, and there's a third that's a new map. I forget what the name of it is, but I haven't seen it yet. But again, I'll jump into it. But what I've seen of Widow's Court, it's Widow's Court. So with some revisions and similar how they did Shores and Pantheon, and they actually did. I don't know if when they brought it back, but you may have missed. They brought Pantheon back.
Yeah,
I can't
remember I can't remember the new name of it, but
yeah,
I still call it Pantheon.
Yeah, Pantheon and Shores came back last year, I should say. So like, there's a few of those maps that have come back. So I think they've said that they've made the improvements in some of the balancing to Crucible, but they're not done with Crucible yet. So I think there'll be more of a season that they dedicate more to like heavy duty improvements and such. But the Crucible Labs is to help test out different versions of elimination. So actual elimination too, the old school like elimination style.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, I appreciate you coming on and talking to me and walking me through this. This is this is not just so much for Just Some Guardians, but also just for my own benefit of coming back. Sure. And I was like, I haven't even talked to you for a while, and I was like, man, I have plans on getting this game this weekend. It's like I really need to talk with somebody, and who better than previous co-host and somebody who's adorable, and so it just seemed to work out. But anything else before we move on? Did you want to bring up about Destiny 2, or just basically dive in for myself and figure it out?
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing that is a takeaway too is the Armor 2.0 system is definitely very deep, and if you start using some new armor, do yourself a favor and make sure that you put up your resilience, because I found out very quickly the other day, if you start using the new armor, it doesn't have it has more skills and perks and things like that, or stats, I should say. But if you look at your resilience, it normally is like a 1, 2, or 3. Whereas if you start adding resilience to your armor, you want to do that pretty quickly. And that's part of the built-in set that you don't have to earn. It's just there that you can pick. As long as your armor is of a certain caliber, it'll help you a lot survive. Because I went for my 1.0 armor, like the original armor from previous to now, and had all the perks and had resilience of like 9 and 10 and all that kind of stuff, or whatever, as a warlock. And I was like at a 2 or 3, and I was like, why am I so squishy and dying so much? And I was like, oh crap, it's because I'm using all this cool new fancy armor that I haven't added mods to yet. So don't wait till like the end to start adding some mods. Add a little bit just so you can kind of like survivability or recovery or whatever you want to do. So that's my only other tip I would say is like, keep your good armor that you like, and you can, bring in new armor as you play, but any new blues and new legendary armors that drop are all 2.0. So you may just miss that if you don't look for it.
And I know before Armor 2.0 went in place, people were doing, was it Crown of Sorrows trying to get Armor 2.0? Is that the only place right before you could get it?
Solstice actually.
It was a Solstice. Thank you.
Yeah, it was a Solstice. Yep. That painful grind, man.
That's about when I
out on Destiny for the summer.
Yeah, that's essentially when I said I gotta find something else. I'm sorry, but
yeah.
As far as like, and I know people were like thirsty trying to get that armor. Is it even really that big of a deal as far as like obtaining it? I mean, it pretty much all drops as Armor 2.0, correct?
Everything is 2.0, even the blues that drop are 2.0.
Oh, fantastic! And then essentially, it doesn't matter what armor you're wearing, you can make it look like anything, correct?
Yes, that is a huge improvement. Like
providing that you've had the piece of armor beforehand, right?
It's all they give you all the Eververse ornamentation. So all the Eververse armor that you had, when you go into a piece of armor, it's actually a little bit. You have to be careful when you go into armor. When you normally look at your armor details, you immediately would see shaders and mods and things like that. That's there, but then you have to scroll down, like tab down, arrow downwards, and that's where you apply the ornament and the shader. You're like, hey, where are the shaders? You have to actually go down a screen because the primary screen is all mod focused and perk focused on your armor. So you do the same thing, kind of like when you go and equip your your sparrow and your ship and stuff. You have to hit down on your inventory. Same thing when you go to a piece of armor. You go down and then you can actually pick. There's like 5 or 6 that are there as default. So even if you got the crappiest like Tangled Shore armor that looks like garbage, I can still go and get one of my Eververse armor sets and just make it look like that. So
but it maintains a property of the actual armor itself.
Yes, it maintains the property of whatever armor you have on.
That's nice.
So and then shaders you can do whatever with, but you don't have to have the shaders. I've been keeping most of the blank ones, but yeah, so it could be the most ugliest of, like, there's the one that has like, it looks like an 8-ball in your face as a warlock. I was like, I think it starts with a TH, Tholium or something or other. Garbage looking, and you just immediately change it to something that looks cool.
Yeah, I can't. A Thornholt or Thorumholt or something like that.
All those.
Yeah, those are gross.
Yeah. So at least it's nice to get that.
Before we move on, thank you, Clearnite. Before we move on to our next topic, I also wanted to kind of just briefly talk about, and we don't even have to deliberate on this or anything like that for that long, but last night I was met with a PlayStation Party update, or a PlayStation operating system update. It was 7.0. And they, I just basically had it was basically known as the party feature update, I guess. But they now allow a maximum of up to, they've increased from 8 players to 16 players now in the party.
About damn time. Nice.
They said the network connectivity is improved and audio quality is improved. About damn time on that.
Right.
And then they said accessibility support with chat transcription has bbeen added, US only. But that's actually pretty cool for our, the players that, have hearing disabilities or anything like that. They can awesome. Actually, that's fantastic. There was one other thing too. They said that the party app will offer the chat transcription. I was really hoping that they were going to announce that, hey, you can also be on your phone and have party still audio through that. But the big update for the PlayStation would be is also you can individually control each player's audio. I think you can do that. Am I correct that you can do that on Xbox? At least through the party
have the
app.
phone ability. You can mute. I think you can change the volume setting on. Yeah, I think that's something you could do if I recall.
Yeah.
So many different systems are blending in my brain now.
I know. I just wish Discord was everywhere.
Yeah. Because that was ubiquitous.
Yeah. Well, that's actually how we've been playing a lot of Red Dead recently. We've just been forgoing party chat and just playing with Discord, and we're it's so much it's a much better experience on that. So
Well, it's also a better quality audio too. That's one thing that I will say. The Xbox has always been good with their systems, to be honest. Like as much as, people hate on Microsoft, I think one thing that they've always gotten right was the party system and the communication system. And they were one of the first ones to jump on the whole, hey, I can use my phone and join in with a chat. I remember Kingsley, I don't know if he's still in chat or not, but I remember when we were playing Sea of Thieves for a little while, you were on PC, I was on PC, or sometimes Xbox, and Dina would join on either Xbox or PC. And then, Kingsley would join in on our chat, and he would be just on the phone on a Mac. He wouldn't play the game, but he would at least join our chat,
mm-hmm.
And that was kind of cool, like to be able to have a party chat like that. Like that's what PlayStation, I don't know why they're not jumping on that, but
well, who knows now that they have cross save, because they just announced that too recently, where they just announced is that out of beta now? They announced a beta that they have announced, or is it?
They basically said it is now acceptable policy and it's approved to be able to do. So I guess it's like SDKs and other things.
Okay.
And maybe just more instructional materials if you're interested, find out more with the dev kits and things like that. So.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to go into our next topic, and that was basically, this is a huge speculation topic right now because they just had a PlayStation, what is their big event for the year?
Yep. The experience.
Yes, the experience. They just had this, right?
Yep.
And then they just come out with a Twitter post and just said, hey, PlayStation 5's coming out.
Yeah.
That was pretty much there it was, and then a link to an article. But as I've heard it described on Twitter, it looks like I've heard it described, I think it was by Glad on Twitter. Described it saying that it looks like little kids' pants, if you look at it correctly, and he's trying to go for the over-under of how much dust gets caught in the crotch.
Yeah, that, what I thought it looked like? I think I even posted this. It looks like a bedpan to me. If it's still that same picture, it looks like a bedpan. It's like, if that's really what it looks like, the hell were you guys doing from a UI perspective or UX, design?
Yeah, that's I have no idea. And when I saw that picture a while ago that was leaked, I thought, okay, even if that is the real thing, that's like they're going through some concepts right now. They're just throwing everything against the wall and testing it out.
They're always crazy. I mean, PS4, there was these crazy designs for a joystick controller and all that kind of stuff. And when they finally did the reveal, it was like, oh, it's the same controller. Okay, whatever. It's like they were doing all this weird speculation, and then they had all these like trademark copyrights and everything filed, and it was the same thing. So I'm wondering if it's a swerve. I don't know. I'd really have a hard time thinking that a electronics designer would go and look at that and say, yeah, this is good. This is good.
I'll sign off on this right away.
I'll take a box instead. Let's just have a big box. That's better than that. So I don't know.
Yeah. I'd love to hear the what thought went into that sometime. But let's see here. So
specs were mostly announced, and I have a spec sheet up that I'm looking at. There's been a few comparisons, of course, between Xbox and PlayStation 5, and a lot of the specs are the same. At least the generic version of what is stated is very similar, I should say. Like, they both have SSDs. About freaking time. Thank God. Well, could you imagine if they didn't have an SSD station or the Xbox? Like, I couldn't even imagine that at this point.
Well, and I think with that announcement that they're going to have SSD, they said they pretty much announced that there's not going to be any loading time trickery that the developers have to work on anymore.
Right.
Like you have to go through this long tunnel or whatever to get to where you're going to preload stuff, or
right.
It's going to be pretty much near instant. So
the best one was always for me the Assassin's Creed one, where you're like going through the clouds or whatever fog, you're there, and it's like, this is obviously loading screen. Why are you guys doing this? It's like, come on, you're making me move in any direction, but it's meaningless. I could just do nothing, and it's still going to do the same thing. So yeah.
One of the things we'll talk about the controller here in a little bit, but and I don't know if you're actually looking at the controller currently right now. But as far as like USB, it's USB 3.0. Fantastic. It's also Type C. which I am extremely happy about because
stronger.
This micro USB device or the cable that I'm using, that's the only way that I've actually broken PS4 controllers actually. Is just the connector itself, because I'm so tired of that thing. But I'm really excited for a Type-C connector. It's a little bit more rigid, and I don't have to worry about my 9-year-old plugging it in and smashing contacts.
It works both ways,
yeah. So it'll actually be a better hookup, at least for younger people. But
and actually, you don't have a Switch, right? Nintendo Switch, because they moved to that too. So if you look at it, that's actually a USB-C controller or cable. Yep. So that's smart. Like, you figure the target audience for that is both adults and younger. So that makes sense to have a sturdier, heavier, heftier, more flexible adapter, basically.
Yeah. They're as far as and I didn't realize that the PlayStation 4 actually had an AMD chip in it. But they're basically using an AMD Ryzen 8 core chip in it. So I don't have any actual specs as far as like frequencies or anything like that is concerned. But
the only thing that they've said is that it's an 8 core. I think that's the only, they haven't said a speed or anything else other than seeing something here. But yeah, it's an 8 core, and that's about all that they've revealed. They haven't said anything else besides that. And I don't think they've said how much memory it has either yet, did they? In terms of the overall memory.
No.
RAM.
However, it supports up to 8K, and you've got to have some decent memory for to at least support that.
Yeah.
So and they have a custom Radeon chip, it looks like, for the GPU. So
they have the new Navi system, which I think is geared towards like mobile and lighter devices, if I recall. Yeah.
Okay. And looks like it is once again coming with PSVR support, and which is awesome. So hopefully that'll actually better experiences with that console can actually at a much more affordable price could come out of that. So,
and it's the same one too, which was pretty well. I don't know about still sales, but I know it had a lot of good sales when it first launched. The PS, I think it was one of the top VR ones. I mean, we know all about Oculus and other ones, but I think the PS4 actually was outselling it just because price tag was pretty reasonable for what it is.
Have they listed an actual projected price for it?
No, you probably won't see that until next year, I think.
Okay. And it looks like right around the holiday season of 2020 is when they're planning on releasing. So
yeah,
I just thought it was really interesting. Just goes to show you how weird Sony is as a company. They just had their big PlayStation event. They could have, what was it, just a month ago or whatever, maybe?
Yeah, it wasn't even. I think it was a few weeks ago. It was right before my trip, and it was the stream. Right, it was just some video that was there. They had left too, was the Big Bang at the end of it, and like nothing was mentioned about a new console.
Yeah,
just weird.
It is weird. Yeah, if that at a time when you could have actually had people, in video explaining stuff or at least going into detail about it. Maybe, maybe they just wanted to get it out there and say, "Hey, it's coming for sure." Stop speculating.
Yep.
Please stop calling us.
Yeah, stop telling. Here's what it is. Stop bugging us. Stop speculating.
So, the controller was also kind of interested me, not just with the Type-C connector, but they said that there's going to be some haptic feedback involved, not just with Rumble, but you're actually going to have like one article I was reading, and forgive me, I don't have it up in front of me, but they basically said that you're going to actually have a different feeling from when you're shooting like a pistol to a shotgun,
bow, or
and you're actually going to have like where it's going to feel like that the trigger is actually pushing back on you a little bit. I think it's cool.
Adaptive tactile or something of those lines is what the term they used. Wired, I think, had a big detail on that one, supposedly. So.
I'm sure it's probably like old school force feedback, like what Microsoft created in the past, but
better improved, but similar concept.
Do you play with Rumble?
Yeah, I usually do. It's funny, I have turned it off at different times when I've had some games that are just a little more annoying, like some of the racing games I like to have them in, like Forza, for example, PC or Xbox, if you play it, it's kind of nice to have that feel of the road when you have that.
Hmm.
Other games, it becomes a little jarring if they don't do it right, or you put it down and then the thing starts vibrating like crazy, like some of the RPG games and stuff like that. I would turn it off sometimes, but for the most part, I would keep it on. I know people who used to turn it off for like Call of Duty and stuff, and it gives you a little bit of, I guess, an advantage and stuff. But yeah, I always kind of liked having that feel to it. So
Yeah. So I think it's cool to try out. I will probably be actually disabling it because I'm the type of person that gets
yeah,
mad. I have ADD myself, so it's like that's one of the reasons why I thought I got better in the Crucible when I stopped using Rumble all the time.
hmm
Just because I felt it was just a huge distraction to me,
it
and I
can
would
be. Yeah.
just felt like it was a world of difference when I actually was able to turn it off and actually just enjoy it, for
hmm
at that, when I can enjoy it. So,
Yeah.
um, did we see anything else as far as like, anything that catches your eye at all?
The big,
It looks
I was
stupid.
happy about backward compatibility. That was huge. It actually is PS4 and I believe PS3, PS2, PS1. I think it's fully backward compatible
Oh,
apparently.
wow.
So that's actually pretty nice. It says I think it'll probably be still a few things that probably won't work, based on how the game was built and, like how they had before, where they might have to do an emulation of it. But this is the first time that Sony has actually kind of done a reasonable job of trying to get backward compatibility to work. And I'm assuming it means you like the Xbox One, where you could put in like your old disc and it will either do an emulation mode or do a download or something where it'll actually play that game. So hopefully they do it to that level. That's what I'm hoping for, and not just do like a PS Now where it's like, hey, we're giving you these games that are the old games, but you can still play them, kind of thing.
Yeah,
So,
my understanding is they hired a company that was known for porting games,
hmm
and they actually this company in I just heard it today, but and the name escapes me as somebody in chat has that name of the company, but
hmm
basically they just went through a bunch of their catalog and just basically to where they're almost running native
yeah,
without emulation actually.
that's interesting. Hmm.
So which would be a much more ideal experience, I would think. So
Yeah, I mean that
um,
would get you more adoption too, because one of the biggest things besides price of a new console is if you can't play the games you currently have or you just bought that are coming out that aren't for that new console, you're kind of hurting yourself a bit by the sales.
yeah.
So,
So if you have a massive catalog and you're just carrying that on, it may make it harder for making changes down the road if you decide to make an architecture change or something like
hmm
that. Uh, but uh, but if you already have a huge catalog ready to go,
hmm
and and also you're uh, touting the virtues of hey, we also have all these capabilities that you can also design for.
hmm
That's compelling to me once again. I'm still hoping that Xbox does something to woo me. I want to be wooed by another console at some point.
hmm
But until they actually have like major titles or something that really want to pull me in, I think I'm just gonna hang
Yeah.
out with PlayStation for now. But
See, I've always it depends on the generation, and this is probably if I look at my cycle, this would be my Xbox cycle because I started with
exactly.
PS1 and then I went to like Xbox and then PS2 and then Xbox 360. Waited a very long time for PS3, but then got the PS4 pretty much immediately. Waited on Xbox One for a very long time because just Microsoft was handling that whole console platform initially. But now, if I had to really say, other than exclusive games, what I enjoy more if I'm going to pick a console to play on, and let's throw Switch out because that's a different animal. Like I prefer playing things on an Xbox One over a PlayStation. Controller is better, the networking is better, the game is itself in terms of like the community, in terms of like your party system and all that kind of stuff, is way better. The play anywhere between PC and Xbox is way better. Like you actually have that, and so Sony might get there, but it's not like part of their marketing strategy, right? So like I think that this is actually the time where I think there's a turnaround a little bit. Sony's been proven to be very rigid, and they're trying to open it up again. Whereas, strangely enough, Microsoft's trying to be more open now and has been successful in the last year, especially, which is not where I would thought I would have said like a couple years ago. So
yeah, well, and I think Sony is basically at the point where they're saying, "Here's our catalog. You know, whatever, you guys have your choice. You know, you guys can go off to another console that they're going to make an update and it's not going to be backwards compatible or whatever.
Right.
Good luck with that. Or you can come over with us." But not to down talk Xbox or Microsoft for that matter, but now they've gotten into a point now where it's like Microsoft earnings calls, they don't even go through the mentioning of how many consoles are sold anymore. They actually omitted that out of the earnings call, and I was just like, when I heard that the last time, I was just like, ew, that's this next console, they've got to hit it out of the park, or else I don't think that they're going to be around for much longer. But
yeah, I mean, I don't think the technology of Xbox One was any problem. The problem was the whole marketing strategy. And now you have new. That's the biggest thing. They really pushed entertainment console to the point where all the gamers are like, screw you. I was one of them. You guys aren't focusing on this. I don't want my Xbox to be a DVR. I still don't plug it into my cable. I don't want, maybe there's some people that will do that now, maybe because of cord cutting and stuff, but I have no interest in doing that. My console is my console. I don't put all that extra crap in there and make it so expensive. And that's the other thing, price tag. Price tag is going to be a big difference. If these aren't very different prices, it's going to be game exclusivity, which is where Sony's tended to be the one who wins out, because you can only play like God of War originally on that game. You can only play Last of Us originally on PlayStation, other games, similar thing. It's like they have the exclusive games. Xbox is sort of like bastardized a bit. They've even kind of said they don't really care if people are playing Xbox or PC. They just want people to be playing on the Microsoft platform, regardless of whether it's console or PC. But the nice thing, as everybody knows, is like have a new generation console. That's going to be a whole lot more bang for your buck than for a new person to try and assemble a computer. For those of us who constantly upgrade their PC over time and keep it up to speed, or every few years do an upgrade, you're used to doing it. But it's that threshold of how much do I want to pay to get the newest card. I mean, I just got an AMD 5700 XT. I paid $399 for that. That's console cost. Like, that's the thing. Like, I got a ton of value. I got 400% maybe more GPU, and the system is awesome now. But to do that every few years, it's hard on a budget, when you try and do that stuff.
Yeah.
So that's where new generations are where the consoles tend to kind of always peak and do really well. And then obviously PC is always going to be superior in terms of specs, but if the games aren't as impelling, so we'll have to see.
All right. Well,
yep.
Like I said, it was just going to be mostly speculation for the PlayStation 5.
That's all you can do, really, speculate a little bit more.
And I love to speculate. So, but the controller, I don't know much to say other than the triggers or something like that. But in their, I believe they're rendered pictures. I don't know if they're actually official pictures of the controller, but
I think they're design spec or design mock-ups or whatever. I don't think those are.
Well, they said it's going to be modular too. Like there's going to actually be things that modules that you can pop off of it, pop into it, kind of like Joy-Cons in a way, how they attach to the Switch or whatever. But they're going to have different modules for the controller too, so that'll be interesting to see what they have for that. But
it's probably going to be. I don't know if you've seen the new Astro controllers. That you can change to the configuration of what you want. The Xbox style, where you have this joystick up and lower, or if you want the PlayStation where they're both lower, you can just rearrange those.
Oh, that's
same thing with
cool.
That's actually really cool. And they've got the back, they've got buttons on the back as opposed to the paddles like the Scuffs do. So they actually have a pretty good price for that and good cost there. It's expensive, but it's it's cool. The Elite controller is another good example, like the Microsoft Elite 2, especially. You can do the same thing. You can reassemble and rearrange it. So I think Sony kind of had to do that because everybody else is starting to do that too. And like you said, Nintendo's kind of done that a little bit as well. So I just want a button configuration that's the same. I think I've gone on this rant before, but like I want X to be an X, Y to Y, square and X. Like just freaking use the same one. I go from like You look at Google, you look at Xbox, you look at Switch, and they all have different freaking buttons for A, B, X, and Y. It's like, why?
That's one of the reasons why when I ordered my Scuff, I didn't have the buttons labeled. They're naked buttons. So because I really didn't care, because if I were to ever take that controller and play it on PC, whatever, I didn't, and they don't give you the prompts or whatever properly, I didn't want to have to deal with that. So
yeah. Well, that's actually another, not to be an Xbox seller here, but like that's one thing that is nice about the Xbox is that you can change any button to anything, regardless. There's a controller for that. Like there's a console for that within the system. So like, you don't like this trigger, that becomes the A or B or whatever. You can do that. It's just like you said, the labeling is the pain in the ass. I'm constantly going for my Switch, where like A is normally on an Xbox is the bottom button, where normally X is on a PlayStation, and then B is the other one, and it's completely flipped on the Switch. So I was like, I always have to keep looking down, so I need the stupid labels because I have to look down and say which one is it again, because it just you don't remember what it is. So I think Sony's got it right with the symbols.
Right. Well, I guess that's our talk on PlayStation 5 for this week. But hopefully they release out some more information, because I really want to see what they come out with, because I am interested in the next generation of console gaming, and so we'll see what that brings us. So I don't have any soundboard or anything like that set up. Hell, I didn't have an intro music at the beginning of the show. So there's gonna have to be some serious work here done. But when Elmer gets back, he can come back to all that fun stuff. So
you want me to go, let's do our
because I don't have an email. I also actually, I didn't even prepare a question. Do you have a question that you'd like to ask the community? Because we ask the questions here, man.
I ask a question, old man.
Do you have any interesting question you'd like to ask the community for this week?
No, I mean, I wasn't really thinking about it. I actually lost track of which was last week's.
Actually, last week's episode was just posted tonight. So so you didn't hear it, and I don't think it was posted in Discord. No. So we failed on that part, but yeah.
No problem.
But I don't even have a question for this week. Honestly, I was happy that I even got it up to this point. So but all right, well, I guess we can go ahead and close on out.
It's like newsflash. Dunbait was able to get it up. There you go.
I always get it up. Always.
The one thing that you didn't mention that I would have been surprised that you would have mentioned is PC announced Red Dead Redemption is coming to PC on November.
Well, yes, that is true. Gosh, why did they have to do the double dip? Okay. I realize it looks like that I'm stumbling on my talking, and I am.
You
are. In a way, I'm excited that it came out and that it's coming out on PC next month. It's going to be another $60 or whatever that I'm probably going to eventually have to spend. I have some announcements for Red Dead down the road, probably about a month after we get some things worked out. It involves server hosting and I'm deep diving into a lot of that right now, getting a lot of that worked out, just learning the languages and scripts and all that, which has been a lot of fun, but also when things don't work, it really doesn't work. So but I probably won't be spending a whole lot of time in online, because that means the modding community is going to be coming in. And I don't know if you've ever, even on PlayStation, or not even on PlayStation, it's on PC, if you play the online version of GTA 5, it's pretty disgusting. Because you could be driving down the road 1 minute, and the next minute you're teleported into someone's apartment, and and basically explosions are going off all around you. It's weird. But I am looking forward to mods to segregate and make your own online experience, and that's what I'll be focusing on for that, and for some wonderful content and some hilarious experiences. So but yes, Red Dead Redemption 2 is coming out for PC. It is and I actually had the specs. I can't switch my screen over because I had that in Discord, but it's basically recommended specs is going to be a 1060 NVIDIA card.
Yeah.
So
I expect that. Yeah. Memory textures and stuff. Yeah.
Yep. And so it's gonna be a beefy game to run on the old PC, and that actually kind of alerted me and thought, I've only had this computer now for nearly a year and a half now, and I already have to update my video card. So
yep.
So if
my console is endearing at times. As much as I love PC Master Race and it is truth, it is also very expensive. And like I said, I did a deal with the 5700 XT, got a lot of bang for that buck, and that will give me another year or two, I think, down the road, because my 1060 was not cutting it in what I was wanting it to do, basically. So, and you see a good deal, and that's what it is. So, I was curious with any of that. Have they mentioned anything about not necessarily cross-play? I'm not expecting, but cross-save. Have they announced, or was it remaining? So I was trying to look it up, but I didn't see if they said anything about cross-save Red Dead Online. Not expecting to save single player game, but I would hope that the online was.
So with GTA, if you did stuff through the social club, this is only when I know. They haven't actually come out and officially said anything, but if I remember with GTA going from console to PC, I do remember that there were certain things like your money was transferred over if you did certain things through your social club. I still had to set up a character, though. And I imagine this is Rockstar here, and just this is what Rockstar does. They make money.
Yeah.
They're really good at making money, and they're going to get it out of you one way or the other if you want to play their game. So my guess is you probably have to start over online with another character and start the whole process over again. I'm hoping that they, within that they come out with some type of announcement that says, hey, by the way, cross save is available if you go through the social club and all that. At least the gold that you purchased through the game or whatever is transferred over. So
my hope is, I remember GTA didn't do it with PC, but when they went from PS3 to PS4, if you recall, that time period between the consoles both overlapping, they gave an offer, because I did it with the last GTA. I bought it on PS3 and I got it for like $20 more, and I got it on PS4, and it actually had my cross save of the single player game at least. That was before the online kind of took off, but I would hope that they would have something of that nature.
I don't even know if they even had the social club up at that time either. So
it was kind of like in a beta. It was like just coming up. It was like, it's kind of like what Ubisoft now, right? Or was until recently, before they started to do the Ubiplay. But like, it was really just like, social sharing. You could do the phone, you still had the phone app or whatever. They could do some things with it. It would be like second screen kind of stuff, but it wasn't very, it wasn't like cross saving stuff a whole bunch. I think you got achievements, and you might have been able to put that towards perks and aesthetics and things like that, but otherwise.
Yeah, but I will be getting it. I have to rethink of what I'm going to do. As I mentioned before, I'm going to have to rethink of what I'm going to do on video card, because if that's coming up to that now, I'm going to have to do something about it. Reven it in chat just said, I believe our Red Dead Redemption 2 PC will be 2-screen capable. You can do that now with some NVIDIA spanning, but I don't know if they actually have anything set up for that. I haven't read too much into that, but it'd be interesting to look into that. But I have some fears on what it could be and stuff, but I'm also excited. I just wish they did this last year when the game released, and maybe, I understand that it's whatever they have to do to get whatever they need to do to get it set up for PC. I just wish they would have staggered off to a month or whatever, but I got a little distraught because on Twitter, people were during the announcement, there was a bunch of people on Twitter that were saying, "Hey, thanks for beta testing us for us PC players and stuff." And I was like, it's not really a nice thing to say.
Yeah, even if it's somewhat true, but officially Red Dead Online didn't go beta until what, summertime? Like this last big update wasn't the version 1. It was like, didn't they release 1.0 right before, and then this was a huge content drop. It wasn't like this was the out of beta. I think it was in early summer where they said, okay, RDO is now out of beta and it's like fully released, but we're having content.
Yeah, something like that. But just the big update that came through this last month. I mean, now pretty much it's kind of winding down pretty much on your weekly basis. You're getting a legendary bounty per week, which have been super fun. It's just, we just all been having this this realization that, all this grinding and stuff that we've been doing in the game right now is going to probably come to a halt on console, because, I'm probably like the lowest of rank in our group, but it's like, I'm at like level 65. I got most of my stuff, my furnishings for my camp set up. Got most weapons in the game. And it's just really disheartening just to think I'm gonna have to go through all that again. And,
it's funny because not funny, but just as one of those things that I mentioned, the reason why I didn't immediately jump into it is the delay in the download of PlayStation, all that kind of stuff, and then ended up getting hooked into Gears 5 until Borderlands came out. Kind of in the back of my mind, I was like, I tried playing a little bit on PlayStation. I was like, I haven't played on a console and even a PlayStation in so long that these loading screens are just killing me, and I'm just not feeling it, right? And it's just one of those things that I have an old PS4, early first release. Like, I've upgraded the hard drive, but it's like it's still the original PlayStation, not a Pro, and so everything feels so sluggish, even as gorgeous as their RDO is. I'm like thinking to myself, I was like, they're probably bound to have the PlayStation PC version come out soon, and am I going to put all this time into it and then dump it for Borderlands and then dump it for Shadowkeep? So ultimately, that kind of slowed me down from jumping back into it, because Gears got its hooks into me, and then so did Borderlands, so, and Shadowkeep. So it's like I kind of held off, but I saw you guys having it looked like you got a lot of fun into it, and it looked pretty cool. It's just by that point I was like level 1 bounty guy, and you're 50 or whatever it is at this point. It's like, okay.
Yeah, last night's we did the before Elmer did his last stream before he went on vacation, and he wanted to get the level 5 bounty of this week's legendary bounty done. And it was fun. However, it was frustrating. There were some kind of stupid mechanics, especially when you go to rank 5. There's enemies that don't show up on your mini map at all, that are just shooting you, and they're tanky.
Yeah.
And you have a guy up in a tower just sniping all around you. Reed was doing a wonderful job getting up into the tower and just taking out that guy immediately. But funny story about that. We got it done after about 6 or 7 tries. It was just getting frustrating. But when you get done with the bounty, you're basically set out on the streets of Ansburg, which is basically a railroad town. And it was hilarious because a few weeks ago, we actually were doing a large delivery wagon over a long distance, and we had our wagon attacked by enemy players. They ran away with half the materials, and we were kind of bummed about it. The funny thing is when we got out of the bounty last night, we're just set out on the streets of Ansburg, and we just looked down the rail, and there's this wagon heading right towards us. And we saw the little red dot on our mini map, and Elmer's like, "Oh shit, they're doing a long distance delivery," and I immediately switched over to explosive rounds and started drinking health tonics to tank up. And we just killed the people immediately and ran off with their carriage, and they were going the wrong way once we got our heading of where we're supposed to go. And basically, I was just there. I think Elmer took off with the wagon and started heading towards the destination, but Reeb, Evil J, and I were just basically cannon fodder. We were just targets to help Elmer get away, and we managed to make the delivery ourselves. We ripped it right from them, and it was almost a Sea of Thieves moment for us, where we just took all their loot, and it was actually a lot of fun. You don't get any money or rank up, I don't know if you get any XP or anything like that from stealing a wagon, but it was just, I don't know, I had this euphoria come over me because I felt like somehow we were redeemed. We had stood our ground and made it back off with the loot. So I thought it was a lot of fun. But yeah, Reebing it. When I first saw them, I never felt happier. Immediately killed them both. So, but yeah, it was a good time. So, but anything else?
Nope.
Okay. This is kind of an unofficial episode compared to the normal madness, but
it's going to be saved though, right? And published.
Oh, it'll be saved. Okay. Don't you worry. So
if it happens again, so help me.
I promise you, don't worry.
Beating a dead horse and all that, So
yeah,
loose back to RDO. Rest in peace, Stinky.
But so Clearnite. That's what he said. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you can't do a head nod because no one hears that. So
it's visual bit. No.
Where can people find you?
Places.
Okay.
Places on the web.
Good night, everyone.
Night. You can find me on pretty much any network as Clearnite except for Twitter, which is Clearnite_. And you can also hear our Hoot Dawg Radio. Kind of taking a break for a little bit again with the summer, but now that Shadowkeep is kicked in, we're kind of getting back on our schedules. So I have recorded tonight, so we'll be posting it sometime in the next week. So
fantastic! Can't wait to hear it. So,
yep.
I guess I'll just lead off where I am because I'm not used to usually doing this. So
you got the line?
I guess so. We'll see. Give me one damn moment. One step at a time here, Clearnite.
God, know the line.
Do you know the line?
No. I know it generally if I thought about it, like utter incompetence and mutual chaos.
Save that.
It. Yep.
Save that. You're on the right track, okay? Yeah, there you go. Type it in chat there. Okay. So I am Gunbait101. You can find me everywhere at Gunbait101. We are listed. This is obviously you're listening to Just Some Guardians. We're on Podbean, Stitcher, Spotify, Old Wax Cylinders. I think on some rare 8 tracks. Just anywhere you can search for Just Some.
Because apparently there's a rush on the materials that are.
Well, they deteriorate over time.
Yeah,
pretty easily. But basically anywhere
kinda
where
like
you
it is deteriorating over time. Kind of like that, right?
That is correct. But yes, so anywhere where you can search for Just Some Guardians, you can find us. Also, where you can find us is JustSomeGuardians.com, where you can find our YouTube videos. You can find you can actually listen to previous versions of the show and that also is linked back to Podbean. And you can also find our blog. And let's see here. What else do we have up on there? I don't know what else we have in there. I'm working on stuff still. There's also some stuff with some server stuff that I am working on that will also be pushed through the website. Easy linkable stuff. If you want to contact our Discord or connect to our Discord, just go to JustSomeGuardians.com/Discord. Easy as pie. Even Russell can do it.
Even Russell? Really?
It even says that on the website.
It supports Macs?
Yes.
little joke there. Just a little joke.
But What else am I forgetting? But yeah, you can also find us on Twitch at twitch.tv/JustSomeGuardians, 11:30 on Thursday nights, Eastern time. Yeah, I was a little late getting going because getting a different scene set up. So I did the best I can, guys. I'm sorry. But anyways. Get shit on absentee Russell. Thank you for that. All right. Clearnite, would you like to take us out?
Sure thing. Join us next week for some utter incompetence and mutual chaos.
I'll go with it. That's beautiful. Thank you.
It's my twist.